See, we used to have assemblies. And we would meet in the spring and in the fall. The three assemblies in 1954, they began to, I imagine it started before that, because as I read the minutes, I wasn't involved in all of it until after it got started. And so there were pastors apparently realizing that, you know, we need something other than meeting in churches, because, see, they outgrew, especially the central, there was more churches and larger churches than what we had in South Dakota. But the need was realized that we need to have a place where our young people can come from farther and associate with one another and grow spiritually. In the fall of 1954, we were delegated. That's when I got involved. We started looking at the Crystal Springs that was available. We had a lot of rain that fall. It rained and rained and rained, and then we got together. Reverend Fisher was driving, and the six of us, we went along the fishermen's trails on old Highway 10, off of Highway 10. That was the only highway that was access to camp. But there was no road built into camp. And we got stuck in a mud hole driving along the lake where the fishermen drove. And we all got out and pushed, and we got the thing out of there. Reverend Fisher was driving, but we had some minor happenings there too. Reverend Shmuel slipped and fell in the mud, and so I don't remember where we went to wash. Maybe we went to the lake. I can't remember that. But we looked the property over, and we saw it was such a nice property for a camp. The three assemblies put their money together. We had a little money in the reserve. We bought the land, and we wanted to build. And of course, we had a lot of rain, but that stopped. The rain stopped, and we had an open winter. And in November, in the latter part of October, we started gathering cement mixers. Everything was done by hand, and cement mixers and wheelbarrows, and we went to neighbors and borrowed these instruments so that we could get a big crowd together and pour the foundation for the chapel and the dining hall. And I'll never forget the turnout that we had. People came in droves. It just was amazing how many people we had, and yeah, I can still see people pounding nails and
Camp is very, very special to me. I guess it helped me in my own spiritual growth. Going to camp was like a breath of fresh air. Growing up in a small community, not having a lot of Christian friends, and I would look forward to that because that coming together with Christian friends was where my support came and encouragement, someone you could tell your troubles to, your problems. There were other Christians there at camp, and that was so important. And I guess the most important thing is that when I would come to camp, I just really felt the Spirit of God there. And I still do to this day. When we drive up that driveway and come on in, I just feel like there is a presence, that He is really there. And I know that a lot of people have prayed that the camp would remain that way over the years.
I remember senior high camp, two guys that I still talk to very often, cabin number 4 in the old boys dorm, a guy named Lance Olam, who's a pastor down in Florida now, Mark Jaspers, who's a pastor down in Minneapolis, and myself. And there were others in our cabin, I don't remember, but I remember those two were there, and we were up till probably 2, 3, 4 in the morning, maybe when everybody else was sneaking out and planning and doing those things, really talking about life and the life of a disciple and what Jesus calls His people to, and were we living in alignment with that as professing followers of Jesus. And that was really just we were all kind of coming to the end of our high school lives and preparing for college, and really having that sort of discussion with other high school students, and we had a great memory there, and I still talk to those guys, and we still remember that night up in old cabin number 4.
I think for me, it's taught or helped me grow in my faith. Like, it's given me people to help keep me accountable, and it's also challenged me to, like when I was a counselor, I don't even know who asked me, but one of the camp pastors asked me to share my testimony, and right away I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to, this is so scary. But then being open and learning how God uses that when we think that we have nothing to share. God used my story to show that, because when I accepted Christ, I wasn't very open about it. Like, I don't think my parents knew right away, but the camp pastor used it as like, you want to share your faith. Like, God wants you to share Him with others. He doesn't want you to keep it closed off like I did right away. And so that was really cool to see how God used my story in a way that I would never have thought that He would have used it.
I came on the board just shortly after Daryl Singer was hired as executive director, I think about 1999. And when I got there, the dining hall was under construction and the new administration building. And Daryl had come to the camp board with a vision that camp didn't need to be just a 3-month camp, that it could be a year-round camp and retreat center. And his enthusiasm for that project was difficult to resist. I think the board found Daryl's enthusiasm contagious, and they bought into it, and they went ahead and built the dining hall and the administration building, the nurses' quarters and the cook's quarters. That project came together so nicely with a lot of volunteers, a lot of donated material and time, that we were done with that, and it was paid for in a matter of months. And when we were ready to sit back and relax a little bit, Daryl said, no, we have no accommodations, no decent accommodations, year-round accommodations for girls. We need something with indoor plumbing, with heat and air conditioning, and so we went right from the administration building into building a girls' dorm. And same story, volunteers came out of the woodwork, the building went up, the money came in, God blessed that project just like He had the administration building, and in short order that was done. And about the time the board's relaxing a little bit and thinking we're going to rest on our laurels for a year or two and save some money, Daryl comes back and says, our chapel's not usable in the wintertime. It's uninsulated, it's a wood frame building with bare studs on the inside, minimal heat, no air conditioning, no audio video, poor lighting. And so we went right into remodeling the chapel. That was another project that took several months and turned out just great. And again, now we're ready to relax, and Daryl said, no. We have great accommodations for women and girls. We've got no place for the guys. All we have is the summer cabins. Again, no heat, no air conditioning, no running water. And so the boys' dorm, as we now know it, was conceived and conceptualized and ultimately built. When we were done with the men's dorm, we found ourselves with a mortgage of almost $700,000, or well over $600,000. That was pretty daunting. Camp had never held any significant debt. I don't remember exactly what year that was, but this being March of 2014, as a board, we were really, really happy last month to learn that the boys' dorm is paid off in full. God has been very, very good to Crystal Springs Camp, and we now have a comprehensive year-round camp and retreat center.
I remember being in high school and going to camp, and I remember a campfire that we were at, and I just really felt the Spirit of the Lord moving in my life and just really saying, Lynn, I want you to follow me in everything that you do. And I remember recommitting my life to Him, and I just feel like that was a real turning point in my life.
I think camp gave me an opportunity, to hear the gospel message in a clear, articulated way for one of the first times that I can remember. Pastor Steve Miller, who still serves down in Spearfish, South Dakota, I believe, when I was in junior high camp. I remember him presenting the gospel message and responding that night with my counselor, Brian Stroh, when I was 14 years old, and asking questions, wrestling about some of the sin issues in my life, and hearing the story of grace, and then responding to the gospel in a way that was powerful, that I clearly remember to this day. Additionally to that, I mean, the opportunity to grow in my character and leadership over the years was a gift that now I look back at and say, wow, that was amazing.
I think when you're giving to camp or giving your time, it's not just to one person. Like if someone's investing time in me, they're investing in other people too. Because that time that's invested in me, then I can go to other people and share it too. I was invested by going to camp as a camper, but now it's something like Joel and I want to go to family camp, and then it passes on through generations. It's not just something that stops. It's not, I just gave to this person and they shut down. It's even in small ways, by just giving, it shows their heart, and I'm sure it grows people as well too, the people that give. But I think a lot of times when you're giving, you need to think too in camp, it's giving through generations. It's not just the one person at a time. It's their legacy and how they're going to grow through their commitment at camp.
God's got big plans for Crystal Springs Camp. He really does. God's used Crystal Springs Camp since the mid-50s to bring people to Him and to bring people together. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard about people who have met their spouses or been brought to Christ at Crystal Springs, or made a decision to be a pastor or a missionary while attending Crystal Springs Camp. It's changed lives more than we can know. And I don't think God's anywhere near done using Crystal Springs to advance His kingdom.